you knew that spilled out onto the floor. And especially somebody like Joe Crawford, who hated Mark Cuban, he would literally stand at the foul line during timeouts, stick his hands down his pants, grab his nuts, shake them while looking at Mark Cuban and laugh.
Really?
And Mark Cuban, complained so much about it that, he had a camera during timeouts totally focus on Crawford, and he finally stopped doing it. But it's funny, we would be in the locker room in Dallas and everybody would be afraid to talk because they thought Cuban bugged the locker room.
Wow, that's funny. That's interesting.
Yeah. No. So as a ref, you guys didn't like Mark Cuban that much.
No, it's funny. I liked him a lot. I thought he was a great guy even to this day. I just emailed with him last week. I think he's a great guy. I think he got the short end of the stick from the referees because, and he was right in the fact that, the referees early on, didn't put the work ethic in that you should for making the amount of money that we made. And he was someone that wanted the referees to have computers, to be responsible to watch more tape. And, a lot of the older guys were furious and hated the fact that, after the game, you had to watch the game and review the tape and, but it was only something that was going to make you better. So, when he came in, he really complained to the point where he wanted, this done. And all the older guys hated him because at the time, Eddie T. Rush was a supervisor of officials, and he would tell everybody this is because of Mark Cuban. And he hated Mark Cuban, and Mark Cuban hated him. So, there were some things there, and a lot of guys, to ingratiate themselves with the supervisor, who was Ed Rush, they stuck at the Cuban. And, it's unfortunate that they did it, but they did. And, I think there was a Miami Heat series where in the finals with Dallas where, Bennett Salvatore stuck it to, the Dallas Mavericks because of Cuban. And, there was a couple other guys that would do it too. So, personally, I liked Mark Cuban. I think that everything he wanted to implement was stuff that was going to make the referees better.
For sure.
Yeah, that series where they were up 2-0 on the Heat. Yeah, and then they lost in 6, right? Yeah.
And then the other owner, because you mentioned, I think, 2 owners that I guess created more work for the refs, or how the reffing community looked at the owners. The one was Mark Cuban, the other was Robert Sarver. Obviously, everyone knows about Robert Sarver now, but I feel like I didn't really know anything about Robert Sarver 2010. What made kind of Robert Sarver?
He there's a difference between him and Cuban. Cuban, he was adamant. He yelled at the referees, but he didn't come at you in an evil, vindictive way. The guy Sarver was just a total asshole from the beginning to end. I don't really think he knew anything about basketball. I think Cuban knew a little bit about basketball and was learning. But this guy Sarver was just a complete jerk off from beginning to end, sat right there courtside and just would berate you from the opening tap till the end of the game.
Yeah. Actually, I know the Timberwolves owner sits courtside every game too. If you remember that, maybe you don't.
Yeah, it's funny because the guy in Boston, I forget his name, how to say his name. He's got a funny last name, but he was giving me shit one time, and he was sat right underneath the basket. And finally, I had enough, and I turned and said something to him, and he said something to me, and I said, "Fuck it, I'm throwing this guy out." And I go over to the scores table. And I said, "You see that guy over there underneath the basket?" I said, "Get security and get him the fuck out of here." And the guy goes, Tim, wait a minute, come here." And I go, "What?" And he goes, "Did you know that's the owner?" I said, "It is?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "All right, forget it," because it was going to cause me more trouble throwing him out,
right.
With paperwork. And, that's the last thing you want to do is be throwing owners because they have a lot of power. So
right.
I just said, "I'll forget it." And I just ignored him. And I ended up seeing one of the scouts the next day in the airport. And he said that everybody there was laughing so hard about, what you said to him, and you were going back and forth to him. I said, "Yeah, I didn't know he was the owner." I said, "I didn't think you knew."
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's funny.
I can't stop. I'm on the way to the top. Got another flight to hop. I can't stop. Got a new whip and a lot. Got a new crib. I'm a cop. I won't stop. Got a whole family and friends. Everybody.